Kremlin and the Red Square. Together, the Kremlin and Red Square make up one of the most iconic places in Moscow, Russia. In fact, just by showing you a photo of these colorful domes right now, you probably know exactly what we're talking about. The domes actually belong to St. Basil's Cathedral, which sits on Red Square below the ramparts of the Kremlin. Earning their UNESCO World Heritage status in 1990, these sites are associated with many major events in Russian history. Red Square is exactly what it sounds like, an open square that separates the Kremlin from a historic merchant quarter. Contrary to popular belief, the square's name has nothing to do with the country's communist past. Back in the 1600s, the area was a top spot for high-profile executions. In the 20th century, the Red Square was most famous for being the site of official Soviet military parades. Stalin even had a cathedral and the square's gateway taken down to make room for heavy military vehicles to pass through during parades and demonstrations. Thankfully, those historic monuments were both rebuilt after the fall of the Soviet Union. Home to some of Russia's most important landmarks, the Red Square has been a public marketplace and a meeting place for centuries. Besides housing the St. Basil's Cathedral, which we showed you earlier, the square is also home to the State Historical Museum, the GUM department store, and Vladimir Lenin's mausoleum. As for the Kremlin, there are many different Kremlins around Russia, but the one located right off of Red Square is the most popular one. Originally built in 1156, the Kremlin's existing walls and towers were then added in the 1400s. Since then, the building has served as a residence for the Tsar, as the official residence of the president, and a museum. The Kremlin is often used to refer to Russia's government, as it is essentially the seat of the Russian government. Due to the Red Square housing some of the most iconic landmarks and the Kremlin's political prowess, the Kremlin and Red Square would be a fine contender for the eighth wonder of the world. Neuschwanstein Castle. We're not into picking favorites, but just look at how gorgeous the Neuschwanstein Castle is. It looks like a building that came straight out of a fairy tale. Located in Bavaria, Germany, the castle was commissioned by King Ludwig II as a personal retreat and to pay homage to Richard Wagner. Instead of using public funds to pay for this masterpiece, Ludwig used his personal fortune to finance the construction between 1869 and 1886. Though the castle was only completed in 1892, the king passed away in 1886 and left behind substantial debts. In order to pay off the debts and finish the construction, the castle was opened to the public as a museum. While the king initially estimated that the castle would take 3 years to build, he never even lived to see it fully completed. It took 26 years for it to be officially done. This castle is such a sight to behold that Walt Disney even based the iconic Disney Castle after it. Still open to the public today, the Neuschwanstein is one of the most popular castles in Europe. It welcomes more than 1.3 million people each year. As mentioned earlier, the castle was supposed to be the king's retreat from the public, so we can imagine that he's probably turning in his grave over the fact that it ended up turning into a huge tourist attraction. Nestled between the Bavarian Alps, this dream building was constructed in a style of old German knights' castles. While the whole story behind this castle's conception seems innocent enough, we have to mention the political reason for building it. After losing a war against Prussia in 1866, Bavaria was forced to accept a defensive and offensive alliance. Part of this agreement was that they had to remove the king's right to command the army in case of war. This meant that Ludwig II was no longer a sovereign ruler, so he began to build an array of castles, like Neuschwanstein, so that he could rule over them instead. Pretty sad, isn't it? But he will now forever be known for leaving behind one of the most magnificent pieces of architecture in the world, one that's definitely worthy of being the world's eighth wonder. That's all for the 5 landmarks we think deserve to be called the eighth wonder of the world. If it was up to you, which landmark would you choose as the eighth world wonder? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.